like that. This was a multi-year plan from Rafik Hariri. When they assassinated him, he was a stool of the West, and once they used him up, they used his death as a method to put pressure on Syria. Once they put pressure on Syria, because remember that Israel would not dare.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well now, brother. I can hear you very well. I can. Are you still here? You still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you well. Yes, we hear you well. We hear you.
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. My mic says I'm doing pretty good. My mic says it's doing good. Let me check it again. Let's see. Check my mic. Check mic. Audio. My mic. Yes, I hear you very well. My mic is 100. So, how's it going with you? I was just talking to the people about Beirut and the designs of Israel and America on Syria and stuff like that. Do you want to say something before, or you want me to continue with this thought and then you add in on it? Rashid, I think, let me see where he's at. Let me see. Are you there now? Now, brother Rashid. Okay, we'll bring him to the screen.
Can you see me?
I can see your computer, but I can't see you. I can see your computer, but I can't see you. You have multiple screens up. Can you hear me? I don't know what's going on. But as I was saying to you all who are listening, and you got to excuse us because we're just trying to get the bugs out of all of this for this show. But listen, as I was saying to you all, this was a multi-year effort. America and Israel had planned this long ago. And when they killed Hariri, Rafik Hariri, the billionaire, the Lebanese billionaire, they installed his son in power because he was compliant with them, and he wanted to live after they saw what they did to his father. And as he was about to blow the lid on things, he went to Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia kidnapped him and wouldn't let him return for a while until pressure was put on him. But anyway, they needed Hariri to be removed so that they could put pressure on Syria, because remember, Syria was the peace guarantor of Lebanon. And Syria had about 30 or 40,000 troops in Lebanon with air defenses and everything. It was only after the West put so much pressure on Syria that Assad, because they thought Assad was an inexperienced guy, because remember, Assad wasn't the one, Bashir Assad wasn't the one who was supposed to rule Syria. It was his brother. But his brother was killed in a car accident, right? And so Assad took the reins, and they thought that this Western trained doctor didn't know how to rule, so we'll put pressure on him. But the people loved him in Syria. He enacted a lot of reforms, and the people loved him. And he quickly learned on the job. But they put pressure on him, and he pulled out troops from Lebanon. And this was to the detriment of Syria, because this pushed the United States and Israel and NATO to enact their plans to destabilize and wage war on Syria, because they see Syria as the greatest national threat to a strong Syria as the greatest national threat to Israel. Because with Syria as a strong nation, with a viable military and a credible leader, then Israel cannot threaten Lebanon and Iraq, right? Oh, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on in this. God, and 25 minutes are already gone. But this is the gist of why you're seeing what's going on. So I'm giving you this because the news didn't give you this. Sometimes when you want to give somebody information, sometimes you have to go so far because you're laying a foundation. And because so many people never get this information, especially black people, it's hard for them to listen to it, and it's hard for them to digest this. But in reality, these are truths that you must hear. Okay, I'm talking to black, brown, red, yellow, and white, but specifically black people, because I believe black people in America are the least informed and the most misdirected people when it comes to world events. America has them looking at basketball and football and sport and play when the whole world is in play. You understand? And there's so many things that are happening on the battlefield. This is a global battlefield, economically, politically, geopolitically, right? Look at what's going on. America is losing her way in every shape, form, and fashion. She's losing her way. She is losing her position with the dollar. She's losing her position as the #1 economy. She's no longer the #1 exporter. She's no longer the #1 manufacturer. As a matter of fact, she manufactures little to nothing but the dollar and worthless weapons, because nations are fastly seeing that America's weapons are not what she touted them to be. Okay? Spending billions of dollars on junk weapons. You understand? You say, well, most nations, America has the largest she's the largest seller of weapons, so she must be doing something right. No, she's the largest seller of weapons because she's in more nations, and she demands her client states buy her weapons. And when other people choose better weapons, she sanctions their economies to force them to capitulate to buy her weapons. You understand? That's what goes on. So let me see. We got Rashid back here. Let me try him. Let me try to bring him in the stream again. Are you there, Rashid? Rashid. Well, I guess not. But as I said, let's go back to. There we go. Let me go back to the one screen. Hold on, and then I'll bring him in on the other screen. Let me go to the ad. Hold on one second. Fine. No, boom. Are you there, brother? Rashid.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you well. I hear you well.
Can you hear me?
I hear you well. Can you hear me? My mic is good.
Oh, boy, I don't know what to say about this thing.
They hear you. They hear you. Rashid, you may need. Can you hear me a little bit? Oh, I guess he's having problems with his microphone.
Now I can't even hear you.
Okay. Keep trying. Keep trying. But as I was saying to you, there are so many things that are going on economically and politically. As I said, America is no longer the dominant player, the dominant power, and this is what's causing her to lash out at other nations. She was once able to demand nations bow to her, but with the weakened dollar and her weakened political position and her stretched out military, she's having problems trying to maintain it. She's having real problems. Rashid, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
What you say? What you say? I don't understand.
The microphone is working.
Okay, Mom, I hear you. Just say what you have to say. I hear you well. I hear you. Come on. I guess he doesn't hear me, but hopefully he'll work through that. But I'm going to continue to talk to you all for the next few minutes or so, and hopefully we'll have this thing remedied. But this is like the second broadcast, and we've been having problems with the microphones on both ends, and I apologize to you all for that. But I keep checking my microphone to make sure everything is good, and it keeps telling me that my microphone is good. So I'll just keep talking to you and letting you know what's going on. So with the weakened dollar, America can no longer afford these massively expensive war machines that are not worth the weight in which she's paid for them. You're finding out that she spent trillions of dollars on a junk machine called the F-35. She spent trillions of dollars on her F-22. She spent billions of dollars on a Zawalt, or whatever it's called, warship that had to be towed out of the Panama Canal. It was supposed to be state of the art, right? She has aircraft carriers where elevators don't even work in them. This is a shame. This is a shame. A so-called superpower that is always threatening everybody else. It shows you what time we're in. Now, I'm hoping Rashid, can you hear me, Rashid? Let's see if he can. We'll relegate him back there. And when he'll be able to talk, I'll bring him back in. But again, you can see it anywhere. Anywhere. She's losing her position. Any and everywhere. I'm going to bring it up to you. Okay, I want you all to pay close attention and look at this, okay? I'm going to bring, let's see. I'm going to bring in something. I cannot even, let's see. Please stop screen. Stop screen. All right, here we are. Share screen. Share this. Here we are. Chrome. Give me a second. We'll go to the economic collapse blog. I just want you to hear some of this. If you think America is not in trouble, I want you to look at this. Headline: Housing crash too. We have never seen mortgage delinquencies rise this fast in U.S. history. And I'm just going to read the first paragraph of it, okay? To show you the economic trouble that now is in America's door. It's no longer to come, it's here. I want you to pay close attention to this. If our economic numbers were going to improve substantially, now would be the time for it to happen. The COVID-19 pandemic seems to have hit a plateau for the moment. The civil unrest in our major cities have been reduced to a dull roar, and millions of Americans that originally lost their jobs have now gone back to work. If we are going to get some glimmer of hope for the economy, then this is when we should see them, because the environment does not look promising once the summer ends. Unfortunately, the numbers that we keep getting just continue to directly contradict the narrative that any sort of a recovery is taking place. In fact, the Mortgage Bankers Association is reporting that delinquency rates on residential mortgages shot up a whopping 386 basis points last quarter. This is what they're saying, okay? If you don't believe that America is in trouble economically and politically and geopolitically, you just don't understand what time it is. You just don't understand the seriousness of the time. Let me read a little bit more of this, okay? The delinquency rate for mortgage loans on 1 to 4 unit residential properties increased to a seasonally adjusted rate of 8.22% of all loans outstanding at the end of the second quarter of 2020, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association National Delinquency Survey. The delinquency rate increased 386 basis points from the first quarter of 2020 and was up 369 basis points from 1 year ago. Whoa! Did you hear me when I said that? Do you understand that? I'll bring Rashid in just a second, Rashid. I see you up there on the screen. Give me a second. I want you to all look at this. Okay? Right here. Because this is what you should be looking at. Now, I want you to see, this is what this says right here. Here's the next one. Millions of acres of crops in the central U.S. have been destroyed by a series of historic natural disasters. The headlines in the first paragraph reads like this. While the mainstream media focuses on the upcoming election, COVID-19 and the endless protests going on in our major cities, another great tragedy is unfolding all across the middle of the country. A nightmarish drought, horrific flooding along the Mississippi River, and a giant derecho that just hit the farm belt have combined to make this one of the toughest years for farmers ever. And this comes at a particularly bad time. Why? Because the stress that the COVID-19 pandemic has put on the food distribution system has already created periodic shortages of certain items around the nation. We definitely could have used an uneventful growing season this year, and unfortunately, we did not get it. Now, COVID-19 is real. I want you to understand that the reason you hear my voice shrieking is because I'm recuperating from it. It keeps you sluggish. It feels like hell in your body, all of that. I'm telling you. So I'm recovering from that. But the economy is not recovering. Let's go a little bit further. Rashid, I'll bring you in just a second. Hopefully you got your mic right. I'll bring you in just a second. Okay? Okay, we'll scroll down. Look at this one. Wait, I guess I should point this way. Look at this one. This global depression will be brutal. Tens of millions of Americans can't pay their bills and are in danger of eviction. Now, I want to ask all of you who will be listening to the show. Does that sound like a rosy future for you? Does that sound like an economic recovery for you? Does that sound like America is in a V-shaped recovery? I'm asking you. And I'm asking you this because I want you to use common sense, because in this day and age and time, sense is not so common anymore. Okay? Look at this. I want you to look at this. Let me see. Look at this. I want you to look at this headline. And I'm going to read a little bit of this, and then I'll bring Rashid in. Hopefully his mic is right. But I want you to look at this article, okay? Right here. Because I want you to understand what is going on. I'm sorry. And here it is. This global depression will be brutal. Tens of millions of Americans can't pay their bills and are in danger of eviction. Most of us have never experienced anything like this in our lifetimes. Fear of COVID-19, endless civil unrest in major U.S. cities, and a whole host of other factors have combined to plunge us into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. On Friday, the Labor Department announced that the unemployment rate in the U.S. fell to just 10.2% last month. And if that number was actually accurate, that would be pretty good news. Unfortunately, it simply does not square with all of the other numbers that we have been seeing. According to John Williams of shadowstats.com, if honest numbers were being used, the unemployment rate would actually be 30% right now. And I believe that figure is much closer to the reality that we are facing. Now, I want you to, it would be closer to 30%. Now, according to most numbers, they say black people are 4 to 5 times more likely to be unemployed, right, than their white counterparts. So if it's 30% for basic Americans, then you do a multiplication of that by 4 to 5 times, and then we'll do it just by a generous 3 times. That would mean a minimum of a 90% unemployed black workforce. You understand? See, we have to look at the numbers. We have to do this right. Now, listen to what it says. In February, 152 million people were working. And since that time, more than 55 million have filed new claims for unemployment benefits. Stop right there. More than 55 million people. The average family of America is a family of 5, right? Let's see. I want to do some math here. I got my phone here, all right? I got my phone here. So check this out. So if the average family is a family of 5, right? And you say 55 million were out of work. Plus we already had 28 million unemployed. That puts us at 300. Look, let's see if we can do this. Let's see if we can do it won't allow me to put it up there. That puts it at 303 million people unemployed. America's population is 336 million people. The entire population. Excuse me. You'll see me get water or Gatorade or wipe my face. That COVID is something else. So, by these numbers, does it look like an economic rebound? By these numbers, does it look like America's in a V-shaped recovery? By these numbers, does it look like that America has a prosperous future? By their numbers. Not by mine, but by what you see here. Right? Michael Schneider wrote that. Okay? John Williams wrote that. Rashid is just telling you the facts. Okay? Now let's look a little bit more into the numbers. 152 million Americans were working. And since that time, more than 55 million have filed new claims for unemployment benefits. Unless tens of millions of those people have been filing fraudulent claims, there is no way in the world that the unemployment rate should be about 10% right now. We're going to read a little bit more of this, okay? So give me a chance. Other numbers tell us a similar story. According to a recent study, 24% of all Americans have missed at least one bill payment since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, I want to say this to you. COVID is an excuse. America's economy was already going downhill fast, but they need something to blame on the collapse. They need something to blame on the fall. They need something to blame as the economy falters and stalls out. They need something. They're doing all of these fandangling things with the books to make it seem like they're fudging the numbers to make it seem like it's good. But your wallets and your reality tells you something different. Is that not right? Okay. I'll bring Rashid in. I see his name down there a second. I'll bring him in a second. So let's go and let's read a little bit further. It says, indeed, paying off bills are an unavoidable part of life, even during a pandemic. Unfortunately, a new survey of 2,000 Americans find that 1 in 4 or 24% have, and if it's 1 in 4, it's not 24%, it's 25%. I'm sorry. The math is off with them. But 1 in 4 or 24, I say 25%, have already missed at least one payment since the pandemic began. Among that group, 26% say they haven't paid their cell phone bill or cable bills. Another 25% failed to pay for streaming services, and perhaps more worryingly, some of their electricity or utility bills. That doesn't sound like a recovery. What that sounds like is an economic depression. This is where we are. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Before I go further, let me try to bring Rashid in, see if he's there.